I love The Boys, and I'm so happy I've been a part of this journey for these characters for the past 7 years. And I just finished watching the season 5 of The Boys, like the series finale, and I think that finale went in the best way I would have hoped The Boys to finish. And it's definitely something I can see myself watching again and again. And I'm going to start with season 5 as a whole, because contrary to popular belief, I like season 5, even before that finale. And for this review, I'm going to go over it episode by episode, and there will be spoilers. So if you have not watched the finale, if you have not watched the season, why are you watching this video right now? But starting from episode 1, I think that episode did an amazing job to set up the stakes for this season and show us where each and every characters are. Butcher is Butcher, Annie and MM are losing it in different ways, Frenchie is still being Frenchie, and we see this new version of Kimiko that can talk and has gone through some kind of therapy, especially compared to previous season, because come to think of it, did she kill anybody in this season? I will talk about it more towards the end, but I think she was more tame in this season compared to other seasons, which is a good thing for her character. But yeah, the episode also did set alarm bells for me when there's this particular character, Mo, whatever his name is. He did give that sense of caution with the writers. I feel like Eric Kripke and his team put this character there because they were scared that people will not like their work. People will not like the way the season is ending. And I think that was a very pussy move in my own opinion. But besides the point, episode 1 did a really good job to set up the season with that energy, especially in the turning point for A-Chain's character and his death, which was, in my opinion, one of the best deaths in this entire show. And honestly, I think episode 1 is the best episode for The Boys like ever. You could make an argument with Herogasm or maybe the assassination run from last season, but I just feel like episode 1 had everything. And the next episode 2 was great. It had parts that would be better explored in past seasons, but I really still like them. Like, I think the teenage ticks, whatever, like I would have loved to see the teenage ticks earlier, especially with characters like A-Train and Sister Sage being a part. But also we see the return of Soulja Boy, and I think that was great, and how he helped the plot move forward. But then I'm going to jump to episode 3, and I think a major episode in this season, because this was when Homelander wanted to be God, and we see the re-emergence of Ryan, which in my opinion, people always be like, oh, where was Ryan? And I would argue Ryan was done really well in this season, because if you look at it from Ryan's point of view, Homelander is a terrible father and just a terrible person in general. And to jump to the final episode, I love that we see Ryan stand up to him and just tell him that he's nothing and he will never have nothing. And it does more for Homelander's character, but just seeing Ryan speak out in that way just speaks to his character and how he's where he is right now and how much he's grown, especially with him growing with his mother Becca, and also somewhat with Butcher. I don't know, but just shout out Cameron Corvetti. I think from an actor that has done it from the age of 13 to 17 in this show, I think he's done an amazing job. But yeah, I was saying, like, his options are either being with Homelander, who is a terrible person, or being with Butcher, who is also evil, who he says is evil in the end of the show. We already see Homelander beat him up. And that literally answers your question. The kid ran away because where do you want him to go? And of course he will leave. He can't go beat Butcher. Butcher wants to kill him. He literally tells him he wants to kill him. And he can't be Homelander too, because Homelander is a bad person. And then episode 4, I can't lie, this is where the show starts to slow down a bit for me. And I'll talk about it more in the cons, but especially with Soulja Boy. But we start to see more of the evil Butcher here. And honestly, this episode, outside of parts in the finale, is where it ends. And it doesn't make sense for it to come and just come back. And I get that he's bad. And this season does a really good job, especially at the start, to make him not really like him. Especially the way he's like lashing out at Ryan. But just the fact that evil Butcher just ends in the next episode. I will talk to a bit about it when I'm talking about that episode, but it was just a bit weird for me. But then I would also think I like the episode as in general, because it shows this chaos and anger in the boys team and how it feels like a classic boys episode of them trying to kill each other and them letting out that chaos and anger out. And we also see Annie and her dad, and some of the other points in this would be amazing in the past seasons. Her dad telling her about there's still something worth fighting for, and no matter what, and also pairing that with that moment when like the cop comes in and he's pointing at his gun towards them, and the fact that nobody gets hurt stamps on that point that people are worth saving. But my problem was that it just didn't add much for the future episodes, because she didn't get that message. She didn't give that message to the Gen V cast. She gave up at some point, and we never really see it give her some sort of belief. She still struggles to fight people like Dognut or even the Old Father, for that example. But I just feel like it was a pointless part. Like, I love the fact that we see our father and everything, but I just felt it felt weird. But then episode 5, and also this was also a really good episode in my opinion. We explore Firecracker and see how people have that chance of redemption, but they just never take it. And her demise being the person that she's given her life up to. And I love the way that this episode was shot, taking focus away from the boys. But at the same time, I see why people hated it, because if this was from a previous season, that's fine. It'll probably be getting Emmy nomination talk. But I have a problem with the new Noir. I think he should not have been a character, because from season 4 till now, he just does nothing. Maybe they could have gotten more from a character that was promoted from Gen V, maybe like a Sam. I don't know if that would have worked, or a Kate, but I feel like the Kate in season 4 would have ruined A-Train being the mole. But I don't know, just something besides Noor again, because he added nothing in the 2 seasons that he was in. We also see more of Terra, which I don't get why people were mad at that, because we just seen Terra from his perspective. Yes, I understand it's the Homelander, him humping Homelander bits, but like, come on, that's less than a minute. And this is the boys, like, we always see stuff like that. And I think those perspective moments did show a little of what was left of Butcher's humanity, or the pieces of his heart. So why are people saying that this episode was filler? It doesn't make sense to me. And we get to see the supernatural segment, okay, which was fun in my opinion. That was a bit more filler, you can argue, but it was fun to see that. I love them making fun of Sony. When doesn't Sony produce the boys? It was a nice laugh. And also RIP Sir Comes-a-Lot. And for episode 6, I want to talk mainly about Sage here, because I like what her character is. And to me, this isn't the episode that ruined Sage. That was more in episode 8. But at the same time, there was something that she said that runs deep with what I heard from somebody else. And it's the fact that Sage is basically like ChatGPT. She is smart, but smart in the robotic cyborg kind of way. And of course, she would find it hard to predict emotion. And even to some extent, she can predict emotion, but she just doesn't understand the kind of emotion, not emotion, but the kind of relationship that Soulja Boy and Clara had. But at the same time, she was on serious fraud watch this episode. Why is she calling whatever his name is? They probably already had it handled. But also this episode, it just looked like she was in a state of panic because of the way she handled Ashley. It just felt very unlike Sister Sage. And also in the finale, I didn't like how they made her stupid and make her just lose her powers. That just didn't sit right for me. Like, if you're really smart and you lose those smarts, like, you won't just be outright dumb. And that's what they made her be in that finale before she left. And for episode 7, I really do not get this episode's hate, because I feel like it did everything right to set us up for that finale. Get the fuck out of here with that filler talk. We see MM, who was in a constant state of losing his morality this season. We see him at the start beating up these guys. We see him losing his OCD. We see him threatening the legend. And now we see him getting his OCD back, and him getting that morality back, with him talking to Annie about how he got that name MM. Okay, I'll put my hands up and I'll be like, I understand the whole Butcher thing. It's something we've seen it many times before in the past. But I feel like it stamps what happens in the finale even further, because how Butcher, no matter the cost, will go to finish his end goals. That's what Kessler said. And no matter who or what he calls his canary, it will not stop him, because he's just that evil character. We see and know that it has always been like that for him. But we also see like his lack of heart. And I think it was just great to see that it was him and Huey in that moment when they see Kessler. And especially for Huey to witness that for what he does at the end. And of course, Frenchie also dies in this episode. And I think he was one of the more killable members of the boys. And I was surprised that it didn't even happen sooner. And I think he went out well. And him being that person for Kimiko and letting her, well, not really, but you know what I mean, giving Kimiko that humanity that she didn't have when she was a radio weapon. Went from her times with the Shining Lights to her times with the boys at the start. And I'm just going to go to episode 8 and talk about every major character death in that episode. And I feel like they were all done well. I've already talked about A-Train and Frenchie, but the Deep, I wish it was done in the previous episode when he was gonna save that guy. He'll have that chance of redemption and then he'll die. But at the same time too, I liked how it was done here with Starlight being the catalyst for that. I feel like that was a good job. And also, I loved how his character was this season. He was so stupid and so naive and so dumb. I know you get a lot of that before in the previous seasons, but this is why we love the Deep. We love the Deep because he's stupid. We love the Deep because he's just moronic. He's comically dumb. And I feel like this season really leaned on that more, but it wasn't to the extent that it was boring or stupid or redundant. I feel like it was the perfect blend. And Butcher and Homelander, I mean, some was 1-to-1 from the comic, and that plot armor for the crowbar went insane. And yes, it was satisfying me to see him just go and beg for his life, and him just be this powerless man that he is when he doesn't have these powers. And it's the callbacks to the past episodes, like when A-Train tells him that he's just a suit, he like without the powers he's nothing. So that moment to see him powerless was just great in my opinion. And also Butcher, the heart-to-heart with Huey before he went out. And after all of that, it was the fact that it was Huey that did it. It was all great in my opinion. And I think the finale stuck the landing. There were high highs in this season. And in my opinion, compared to what everybody else is saying, the lows didn't stoop that low. It wasn't really super low lows. I enjoyed every bit of this series finale. With the characters of Homelander and Butcher, as I mentioned, their conclusions were great, but I just wish we had more consistency with Evil Butcher. I understand that moment with Terra was that point, a sliver of humanity for him to come back, but I wish we didn't have that. but at the same time, it did make sense that we got that with Ryan at the end. Homelander, happy he's gone, and he was a compelling villain. Till he got the V1, he was scared, and that's why you never really see him come out to look for the boys. And in my opinion, he was done really well. Starlight, they did do some back and forth with her character that I didn't like. I've talked about that, but I'm happy that she did get some of the moments that she had, and especially paired with who I would probably say that he had the least to do this season, considering that they did most of his stuff behind the scenes, which low-key I should be pissed about, but for me it's fine right now. I know in like a couple of weeks I would think back on it and I would hate it, but he just goes from berserk to normal without us really seeing it happen. They just showed us and told us what happens without the progression, if you get what I mean. And Huey was kind of, from episode 1, we see him filled with so much hope. He tells his friends, that his friend from the bureau when he's in camp, that that's the only thing that will keep you alive, the hope. And even Annie says it, that she doesn't see why Huey has so much hope. But he was the first person that switched up when Homelander got that V1. He was the first person that gave up. But outside of that, I really liked him butting heads with Butcher at the start of the season, in trying to save Starlight, in trying to save Kimiko. And it was pretty nice that he was the one that did Butcher, as I already mentioned. And final members of the boys, Frenchie and Kimiko, I'm happy as to how much of Frenchie we did get, because I thought that they were going to kill him really early on. And Frenchie was always that character that he never really offered anything in terms of like the team dynamic, in being like that glue or that extra personality. But I feel like there were some episodes or some moments here that he added that, like the scene where they're all raged up. He was the one that tried to fight for them. Or when Sister Sage is in her moment of depression that she can't control or predict anything, he was the one that like stared her to help. And as I mentioned, he had a really good send off for Kimiko, who I love, and the full change for her character from that weapon of rage that we see in season 1 to who she is now. But I would say their romance was a bit too little too late, in my opinion. Like, I'm happy that it did happen, because I wanted this to happen since season 2, season 3, but I feel like there were parts of it that we just never got the chance to flesh out, because at the end of the day, this is an 8-episode season with limited time. Like when Kimiko said she didn't like his food and he told Taro that Kimiko likes his food, I think that would have been nice to see them grow in previous season, but it is what it is. But the season wasn't perfect. There were maybe tiny things that I didn't fancy. I can't really think of anything from the top of my head, but one glaring thing that I would put my hands up and say I didn't like too much about this season was Soldier Boy. Like, don't get me wrong, I love his addition. I think he does add a lot to the show, but at the same time, he takes so much away. I like the bomb side stuff, and I don't think that was a problem. I don't know why people are hating on that. In fact, I think that actually added something for the story, especially with Golden Geisha and Kimiko, and a bit with what's her name, Starlight, with them not wanting to be vampires. But honestly, I had a problem with the stuff with like Quinn, for example, because that added absolutely nothing to the plot. That was blatant vote rising promo, and I just not interested to see that, because man, we don't care about that. It's the final season of our favorite characters. Let's not force to eat what we don't want, and let's not forget that he was just sidelined at the end. And how did the boys know he was indisposed? It doesn't make sense. It's probably down to Vote Rising, but I think should have killed him. I understand like they want to save him for Vote Rising, maybe to be like a prequel and they'll show like stuff in the future, but this was MM's guy. And I feel it was a bit disappointing that we didn't see do his job there, especially with, what's his name again? Charlo Esposito's character. And also the stuff with Stormfront, because I get why it's there. It's to give Homelander and Soldier Boy something to relate over, something to bond over. But at the same time, I felt like it wasn't handled the best in my opinion. With all that, it's what Clara would have wanted then. It was bullshit. But outside of that, I can't really point out anything that was glaring. Maybe how Sage was treated too. I mentioned that. I didn't really like that. They made her dumb at the end. People hating them for their edgy humor like Dognut and Feline. But do you know what you're watching? You're watching The Boys. Season 3's opening was a guy entering another dude's penis hole. That's just that kind of show. And also, people hating on the fact that the Gen V characters didn't do much. And bro, they're probably going to get their own spin-off. And even if they don't, the show is called The Boys, not Gen V. But yeah, overall, I love season 5 of The Boys. And with all my fears, I did think that the show did enough to tie the knot to what is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. If not my favorite TV show of all time. Make with that what you think, and I would love to know what you think about this series and what you think about the season finale. Thank you for watching this video, and hopefully I see you in the next one. Peace.